Good day, everyone. My name is Larry Chang. I am a founder and currently the director of BEST Center, that's short for Building Efficiency for a Sustainable Tomorrow. And today's webinar will be featuring a brief overview of some of the STEM efforts amongst colleges in our network, but primarily, we're going to hear from our friends at Stacks Joules, which is a nonprofit doing work around building automation education. And I'm going to, let our friends do a more lengthy introduction, both to themselves as well as their program. And today I am being joined by Mike Conway, who is the founder and president of Stacks Joules. You'll note that they're based out of New York City. And also with him is a fellow founder and chief technology officer, John Spooner. And they will also be joined by some of their recent graduates of their all-female high school cohort. And I will just go through this very quickly. I suspect that many of you here have heard this multiple times, but what is BEST, and why do we do what we do, right? We are funded through the Advanced Technological Education Program within National Science Foundation to assist community and technical colleges with curriculum and faculty professional development around commercial HVAC, building automation, and energy management. And what motivates us and why is this work important to us? Well, I hope you'll have three factoids that you'll take away today, all right, related to buildings and how we relate to them. Number one, buildings in the US, both residential and commercial, are responsible for approximately 40% of the energy usage in the United States. They are also likewise responsible for about 40% of the greenhouse gas emissions in our country. Right? And finally, we spend more and more time indoors. Approximately 90% of our time is spent indoors. And with our recent lockdown and everything, we were probably very close to 100%, right? So, the environment that's contained within our walls becomes ever more pressing, and we need to ensure the occupant health and comfort among all the other aspects of high performance buildings, right? And, I just wanted to briefly mention some of the opportunities and resources for instructors, right? We put on workshops and webinars like this every year. We just wrapped up an advanced BAS instructor workshop in Omaha, Nebraska. Thank you to our friends at Metropolitan Community College for hosting. Right. We also provide technical assistance with lab and curriculum development. We've negotiated equipment discounts for our college network. And we also offer application reviews for those colleges interested in applying for these ATE grants. And on that note, I just want to give a big shout out to Milwaukee Area Technical College for just receiving notice. There's Ted pumping his fist, okay, for getting the green light for their project grant. And, we will be giving you updates on that and really look forward to collaborating with him along those efforts. Okay. And last but not least, we have a network of about 70 colleges that collectively form this brain trust, if you will, for high performance building operations. We have an assortment of webinars on YouTube. They are accessible both through the website as well as our YouTube channel. And you'll see that just as a sample of titles, we have everything from, what does it take to start a BAS program? That's often a very, commonplace question. We also are interested, of course, in seeing women take their role in the building trades and high performance building operations. And last year, in 2021, we really had an outstanding talk by John McComber of Harvard Business School. He was talking about why healthy buildings are essential, both from an environmental as well as an economic perspective. Right? So that's the URL for our website, sctr.org. Check it out for those resources. Now, the central theme here is why outreach for building automation is absolutely critical. And, you know, when we look at the industry from that broader perspective, right, building automation, building controls technicians are among the prime middle skilled jobs available in our fourth industrial revolution. And just in case anyone out there is, you know, new to building automation, right? Think of it as the computerized integration and control of building systems, including mechanical, lighting, fire and life safety, building access, among others. And if you visit the website at greenbuildingscareermap.org, right, you can find more information about this particular industry, the needed skills, and also the income that one might expect. You know, starting salaries might be anywhere from $60,000, and with again, added experience and over time, you know, you could be looking at six figures. So this is really a very unique opportunity in, again, the world of buildings to apply those kind of hybrid skills, right? Computer, IT, electronics, HVAC, and earn a very healthy living wage at the same time. So here are the dilemmas that are facing the industry. First of all, building technicians or BAS technicians, building technicians too, are in short supply and very high demand, and controls companies are really competing fiercely with one another for good talent, right? We know that there's a shortage. Anecdotally, BAS jobs may increase 20% or more over the next few years, right? At the same time, the Bureau of Labor Statistics has yet to recognize BAS with its own classification, right? And, you know, the information that we need to glean has to be done in a very piecemeal kind of way. Okay, let's see, you know, what's listed under HVAC or what's listed under mechatronics or facilities, right? And because that labor data is so mixed, it's very difficult to kind of pinpoint where we are with this particular industry. And unfortunately, as a result, partly because of this, building automation remains a relatively obscure and unknown discipline, right? And add to this, this is a point I really want to hit home with today, right? There is a severe shortage of instructors for BAS programs, right? And that just compounds the challenges kind of facing the future of this industry. And I would certainly welcome any of our industry partners joining us today or who see this later, you know, to join us in this effort. We welcome the donations, you know, whether it be equipment or the discounts or what have you. But at the end of the day, we would love to see you all right there with the teachers and the counselors and the outreach coordinators at science fairs and college fairs, right? Because, you know, you all can make the strongest case for your industry since you live, breathe, and eat it every day. Now, I just wanted to give a brief overview, as I mentioned earlier, about some of the projects and efforts amongst our colleges here in the BEST network. And the first one is Barbie's Smart Grand Hotel, developed by Dr. Deb Hall at Valencia College. She also received an NSF grant to develop her program in energy management and controls technology, and was also able to develop this outreach exercise. Here she intended it to be more of an exhibit to grab the attention of girls and teens at these various college and science fairs. You can imagine it gets really noisy, right? Really hectic. So you need something that's an attention grabber. And lo and behold, she dusted off this, Barbie dollhouse that used to belong to her daughters, integrated a controller, right? A little computer fan, and of course the software needed to control all of that, as well as a multimeter and temperature sensors. And that allowed for two activities to take place. Learn how to control a computer fan by using the software, as well as looking at how temperature sensors are also integral to that process. And then the second activity is to look at the relationship between electrical resistance and temperature. What happens when temperature goes up or down, right? And I hope that's kind of sparked your curiosity, and you'll go ahead and Google it and look that up for yourself. And certainly, right, the exhibit is intended to bring greater awareness to this industry and the possible education and career pathways. Next is Robert Nyrenberg's project, also developed through an NSF ATE grant. Here he calls it Box IT. Think of it as next generation building technology in a box. That's how they had packaged a lot of their devices for distribution, for multiplying these sorts of activities. Right here, he's taken a series of cardboard boxes to resemble retail stores, right? And then you have ductwork that, again, tries to simulate a forced air system, delivering different amounts of air to each store, right? And students use the actual technology, the controllers. You'll see that blue controller in the middle, actuators to open and close dampers, right? So they're being exposed to real world technologies, as well as the software needed to control all of this. And they begin to develop both an awareness and even just the first steps at building those employable skills. And finally, I want to give a nod to our friends at Association of Controls Professionals. They are led by our longtime co-PI, Brian Lovell, who was the founder of the building automation program at Georgia Piedmont Technical College in the Atlanta region. And here you'll see that they essentially created the song and dance routine, these live performances intended for larger audiences of high school students, right? And following these live performances, the students would go to the mobile lab, that's the big truck to the upper left, right, where they would engage with various building controls related activities. Now, Brian's done a number of these performances in the Atlanta area and well beyond, up through the eastern seaboard. In fact, I think he's done some more recently in the New York area. So our friends at Stacks and Joules, feel free to contact them if you ever want to hook up for something like this. Yeah. Okay. And with that, I will turn over the podium to Mike and John and their crew.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you very, very much. Let's see, I think probably makes just sense for myself and Mike to just give a brief introduction of ourselves, and then I can dive into the slide deck that gives you an overview of our curriculum. So let's see, we started Stacks and Joules about 5 years ago. I myself, well, first and foremost, Mike and I are best friends from second grade. So we have been in each other's world for a very, very, very long time. And I myself, I'm kind of the technology side of Stacks and Joules. I was an executive at Alphabet working on their smart city initiatives and trying to roll out free Wi-Fi throughout Manhattan and things like that. So I definitely had a vision into the workforce needs around technology, not just being the highest level, master's degree technology, but then also the layer of technicians. And that was something recurrent that Mike and I kept on kind of bumping our heads on about, like, how do we really offer a program that's gonna, bring this technology skill, but bring it in a way that's not just, another boot camp, another technology. And so then Mike, if you want.
Yeah, hey everybody. Yeah, so Mike Conway. Yeah, so on the education side, I taught high school math, public in a variety of public schools across the country for over 20 years. And Across that career, especially in the second half, as I started to really focus in on alternative high schools and um, uh, students that had not been uh, kind of given access to success in math, I really focused in on project-based learning and relevance. And that's where a lot of the connections that John is referencing, I'd go to John, I'd go to others to find, valuable and meaningful connections in order to engage and support the learning of my students. So coming out of that, I then worked with 5 Los Angeles Unified School District high schools that were in the process of adopting a program called Linked Learning, which is about career-connected academies. And my schools all had an engineering and environmental focus. So I would work with the administration all the way directly into classrooms in sort of pulling the whole school together around this that theme, that career theme. And so gradually over time, that's sort of led to Stacks and Joules, identifying first, just in general, looking for the best opportunities for students. And so then we know that, like, that there's got to be some technology, right? That's the future, and that's the future of opportunity. And it's holding back a lot of students. And then Also this approach around coming out with some very targeted, specific skills. This comes from having seen and experienced on my own, like, an exposure and a choice-based approach, which I then saw because it was a sort of like painting with broad strokes and around awareness. It wasn't leading to opportunities, whether it was enrolling in post-secondary programs for further advanced training or being able to enter the workforce. So we really started to look for what is the job that is high need, and Larry spoke to that, building automation, huge need, they can't fill these. It's also not a flat profession, all right? It requires, it's so complicated, it's constantly updating. Every situation is a different combination or different stack of technology. So it requires investment in the worker even after they get the job. And so there's a ladder of success that reaches far and also starts to branch. So by focusing on this initial set of very targeted competencies, we actually are seeing now that that is actually leading to choice. They get their first foot in, they have that direct opportunity, and then it's starting to open up choices that are transferable even to other industries. With that, I'm going to before I pass it over, I'm going to pass it over to John. I want to thank all of you coming from the community college community. I've worked with a number of community colleges in this work of connections. Definitely was always a focus to get our students to be working with folks like you you're like supporting opportunity in this country, and I want to thank you for that.
Yeah. Yeah, so let's see. I'm gonna go through a slide overview of our curriculum, and let's take it from there. There. So, all right, fantastic. There we go. All right, so Stacks and Joules. So this one, basically Stacks and Joules' mission is to give more people the chance to have careers that use technology for the common good. And this seems vague and all-encompassing, but it really is. That's really the mission boiled down to what we're trying to do. And I hope you see that demonstrated through this presentation. So, for example, these are the faces of last year's cohort that we ran with high school students. This is a New York City-based, Manhattan-based high school called the UA Maker School. And this is just an example of the population that we're really working with and really trying to move forward with this work. This is also an example of our young adult program. These are actually young adults from the Henry Street settlement in New York City, where they're obviously doing hands-on refrigerant recovery studying. But yeah, this just gives an example of the kind of faces that we deal with in the regular for our program. So one thing that has been a big boon to our effort has been through these partnerships. This is really the way that we're able to get students or trainees from the training table into the field and actually working. It's through these tight partnerships that we're able to bounce our curriculum off of them and make sure that we're training towards skills that they actually need. And then additionally, we have these companies send their professionals into the classroom so that they can teach directly, like this is a multimeter and this is how it works, or this is whatever technology. That's really how we stage this, is by not only teaching and not only getting the students to the point where they're doing hands-on work, but then also getting the professions, getting all of these industry partners in. It serves not only as a way for the student to get experience and the student to learn, but then additionally it helps the employer kind of start the interview process by coming into the classroom and meeting some of the standout students that they really align with. They're able to really take them and work with them towards getting them to be hired. So that's a big important part of our program. All right, so the curriculum for Stacks and Joules. We start off with a Python coding curriculum, and this is day one. What we have is, to the left there, you'll see on a power strip we have 3 light bulbs, and those light bulbs are RGB controllable, so any color you can input and control. And we actually worked with MIT on developing the system because it's open source and it's based on Wi-Fi connections. So what we have students do is on day one, they get a piece of paper with some Python code that allows them to start the process. They connect to the light bulb wirelessly and they're able to send it a color value. And that begins the process. And we work over time teaching them about arrays and various other pieces of Python. And for this first lighting control, the capstone or the end goal of this is we have the students select their favorite song, and then we have them actually choreograph a light show to that song. Now, obviously this is very engaging. It's a way for the students to really flex their own style and input and such. But the sneaky thing is that we're also weaving in actuator sensor relationships into that code. Into that idea are control strategies, because tuning, scheduling, using any of the basic controls, they're actually doing that in Python. And so we formalized this lesson by having them do a Lighting Control Association certification on lighting control. So they learn the basics of lighting controls, and then they actually certify themselves on it. So that's the beginning, and that's definitely the start to this process. Then, along the way, we're working with the students to take what they're learning and turn it into functional, like, things that are as hands-on as possible, because we just find that a lot of technology teaching is all within the computer, and it doesn't really branch out and doesn't really go to the real world. So one thing we do is they learn about lighting efficiency by doing a lighting lab where they're learning about how many lumens are output versus voltage and heat and all those things. And then additionally, we have them go through their school and audit their classrooms. Look at all these fluorescents in your room. How often are they on? Are they on over the weekend? And then going through and working with a professional lighting team to say, oh, okay, what would be the difference if we change these all to LEDs and put it on a control system? So we start to, once again, get inside their head of like, oh, wow, this actually, it started off with colored lights and putting it to hip hop, but then eventually it starts bringing it into real, like, yeah, lighting auditing is one of the roles in this huge pie of building automation that is a great vocation as well. So we start to kind of put in those real job items. Then we continue with hands-on training, and the big thing that we kind of hook for each of these disciplines, the lighting one, we do the LCA, which is the lighting control certification. Then for the second half, or second third, we actually do HVAC. We learn about the refrigeration cycle. We learn about all the different pieces that go into AHUs and how all of that building air control works. And we have them take the EPA 608, which is the refrigerant handling exam, which is a very challenging exam, but we find that it really cements in not only an accomplishment, because a lot of these students have had very tough experiences in high school. So to give them a challenge that they have to study really hard for, but in a supportive environment, in an environment where we're working with them so that they can really succeed with that, we find that this is another certification that really gets them hyped up for it. And then lastly, we do an overview of Niagara 4, and we offer them basically a certification in that. So these are all the kind of hands-on training aspects. The Niagara 4 certification is really where it all starts to come together for the students. The big difference that we find is that in the industry currently, how workers generally get introduced to this layer of technology is by having 5 to 7 years of experience. By working at an HVAC installation, by working at a BAS company, they've worked in the field doing filter changes, doing duct work, things like that. And then eventually, once they amass enough experience, then the company decides to send them to a Niagara 4 certification program, and they go from there. And that's great, but we like to invert it so that we take that high-tech, software, and we teach these, new students that software. Because really what this is doing is virtualizing those systems that they just learned about in lighting and HVAC. So by virtualizing it, it's something that, our old feeble brains just can't grasp as quickly, but for young students, this makes sense instantly. So it is really through this approach to Niagara that you're really grasping what this can mean of like, oh, I can control the HVAC using this virtualized control map. And by creating a wire sheet that shows the pump and the other pump and how that they're on or off and doing that kind of control, it's really something that sinks in well for them. Another piece as we're going through those 3 phases is we always involve performative tasks. And this is very, very core and important to our program. We actually spin it in right in class, where we have students presenting to their own class whatever they have learned, whether it's about the Python, about HVAC, or about Niagara. We make sure that they're comfortable in discussing and explaining this. And this photo, in fact, is students from that UA Maker class where they did a lighting audit and they went through and came up with a full proposal of how would we replace, what would it cost, what would the payback rate be, and what would the final savings be. And by putting this on them and by making them go in public, where the audience here is actually Department of Education folks, city building folks, different professionals from the industry, by doing that, it makes it so real for these students that it becomes, I mean, invariably, this is one of the favorite things the students always go back to as we're recapping the year. They say, man, that was really tough. You pushed me out of my comfort zone to present in front of people. But by presenting to other people, it really cements it internally. They have the confidence to learn something so complex and outside of their wheelhouse and be able to talk to other people about it and give them that advantage as they go into the workforce. The other piece to our puzzle, aside from the 3 disciplines that we have, is really about the how of finding a job. And we rely heavily upon LinkedIn as a way for the students to post their progress as they're going through the program. Because the BAS community is definitely present on LinkedIn, what we're finding are, students will film an explanation of the refrigeration cycle on an actual box air conditioner, and they'll go through and they'll point to all the different pieces and how it actually works, and then they'll video that. So much like a TikTok or something like that, they will have this captured video, and then they share it through their LinkedIn to kind of give their LinkedIn more attention. And it is absolutely incredible because you have, high-level engineers commenting, liking, sharing those posts, and it really starts to create this feedback loop of like, these are new students who are just into this industry, but they're getting attention from the whole BAS LinkedIn industry. And it's really a great way that we find to help these students towards that getting that job or getting into the industry or getting an internship. Currently, our impact, actually these numbers have increased, but this is basically our impact. We have had 206 trainees. Of those 206, we've had 254 certifications, and we've had 124 of those students go on to paid internships. Now, we additionally have, I believe, somewhere in the range of a dozen to 20 full-time employees who've come out of this as well. And so it really is something where we're starting to see those numbers go in this direction, where we're really getting a great deal of success and really starting to produce results that the industry is starting to notice and really come to us as a talent resource. For example, our most recent adult cohort that we did with the Henry Street settlement, we graduated 20 students, and 100% of the trainees have been either hired, promoted, or advanced in their careers. If anybody on here has ever dealt in workforce development before, usually you're talking like, double digits at most for placement, and this is just, impossible. This is something that just does not happen. So this is just showing both the demand on the industry side and the training that we're offering, both are meeting in such a way that it's really filling a need, and it's keeping those students engaged to the point that they're actually becoming workers in that field. And I guess that's about it. I would obviously open it up for any kind of questions. If you do need email addresses and so forth, they're all here. We would love to talk offline and talk further. But yeah, I'd like to open it up for any kind of questions you might have, and I will stop sharing. Oops, I guess I dropped all the emails.
I did want to point out one thing, John, is one thing about our high school cohorts, because we really do, I mean, it's the same training, it's paced differently, but it's the same training in our high school versus young adult. But we started with high school, and what we found was we work with schools to identify students that the school identifies as not being likely to enroll in or to complete a post-secondary program, right? So we saw it as a support. The effect and our original intent was like, well, let's get them a job that can lead to extra training. Our effect was our graduates were deciding to enroll in post-secondary programs and trainings, which gave us a little conundrum because our partners were like, well, where's the talent? But of course, that's a huge success for us. One thing that I really want to put out to this community is we really want to focus in on that in particular and make a very strategic bridge from our high school program graduates into a degree, associate, or even 4-year degree programs. We're starting that process. We have a relationship with a CTE high school called Energy Tech in Queens, and they work with LaGuardia Community College on like a 9 through 14 model, where their students can start to gain credit while in high school, and they're continued to be supported by the high school support counselors and everything, even as they matriculate through the LaGuardia programs. Right now, there's not a direct link to a building automation, focused career preparation at LaGuardia, but we see that potential, right? We're awakening it. We're getting them to have the belief and to have the confidence to enter into enroll in these programs. We'd like to really figure out how we can get a more direct link into your programs and help support the success there.
So let's see, I see 2 hands up, and I definitely want to get to those questions, but one thing that I failed to mention is we also have on the Zoom today, we have 2 former students. One is Sophia Kilik, and she is just a recent member of our graduating cohort that was with City as School and the Lower East Side Girls Club. We do an all-women's cohort, and we had them this year, and I would love to get some comments from Soph on really what your experience was, what you knew about building automation or didn't know about building automation, and then what you basically got out of the program. So I will come back to the questions, but I just want to get Soph to comment if possible.
So at City as School, it's like an internship-based school. So as talking to like my advisor who helps me choose what internship I would like to choose, I told her I'd taken one robotics class before, and she told me that they have a program called Stacks Joules at the Lower East Side Girls Club. It's all girls that we basically learn how to do coding, and that's all she told me. And I was like, okay, I'll do it. And the first day we got there, we learned how to code a light show, and it was really fun. And I was kind of surprised and like thrown into all the stuff that we were doing and all the people we were meeting. It was just so like fast and exhilarating, and it was great.
Yeah, and so did you know about building automation ahead of time?
No, nothing at all. And it was really great starting with lighting, because it was like cool to see that we all need lighting, and walking into any building now is just completely changed my perspective on everything,
Yeah. So Soph is definitely representative of this group, and what I think is interesting, and a point that Larry touched on earlier, is getting teachers for this is it's a big challenge, and it's a challenge that we face as well, because while we're able to teach and we can bring in professionals, that's a tough thing. If you're dealing with an industry that has it has a chasm in terms of talent, where are you going to find the teachers? So another person who's joined us on the call here is Fran Peral, who is a CityAs Girls Club alumni from a few years ago, who went from being a student and initially showed promise, and so we actually hired Fran on as a facilitator for the Stacks and Joules program. And because I know she won't toot her own horn, I just want to also put in here that so we had Fran teaching this past year our young adult cohort at Henry Street Settlement. Previous to that, she had taught another Henry Street Settlement course where a professional from a local BAS company who had not been able to take that Niagara training because he didn't have enough experience, he heard about our Niagara course and was like, "Hey, is there any way I could take that course and sit in?" So you had Fran teaching a current professional about Niagara, and he went through the whole course. He then the next month got his Niagara 4 certification, and the next month was promoted to supervisor of his group. So there is this direct piece where the teachers that we're able to get are coming from the students that we introduce this field to, get them the training where they understand it, and then having them lead the industry into getting into this technology is the other thing. I'd love to, Fran, if you could just kind of give us your overview of how you felt coming into Stacks and Joules and where you feel like you are now.
So I graduated from CityAs as Sophia is in right now. I was introduced to Stacks as a student, so I was close to graduating, but I didn't have the I still needed a couple more credits to graduate. So I decided to intern for Stacks and Joules, but as an assistant. I wasn't supposed to be a student, but I saw the girls doing like LED lights and I was intrigued, and I previously never did coding like that. I didn't think it was for me. I just felt like I wasn't capable of learning it. So what so I just, took a stab at it, and the way that John and Mike introduced it was, it's good to have a skill even if it's not something you've done previously, but it's good just to learn it because it's going to help you stand out from the rest in like outside of like the space we were working in. And so then I was like, okay, so I just did it. It was challenging because, seeing just full of words and numbers and not making sense, but then also learning how to read it and realizing that, you're also capable of learning something so difficult, but yet so, easy. And now I'm able to read code. And like John said, I don't like to toot my own horn, but now I'm, teaching an adult cohort and also running high school classes in a different with UA Maker on my own. And, looking back a couple years ago, I would have never imagined myself here. So, it was definitely eye-opening, and also giving myself a chance to, say I can do it. And high school does come with a lot of traumas where you think you're not capable of doing because you may not be the A student, or you're just not presented to those opportunities because you're not scoring high enough. But they only present those opportunities to the kids that do score high enough, and to the kids that aren't scoring high enough, it's like, yeah, they'll do something else, but this is just not, because they just don't fit in this group. So being able to be part of the group without having those high grades and all of that, it kind of brought out my confidence, and I'm able to teach the girls like Sophia and plenty more that, it's not all about having A's or being the smartest person, but it's about, having the support system to support you and being able to accomplish those skills that everybody's capable of doing.
Yeah. Thank you. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. So, Terrell Bailey, I notice you've had your hand up for quite a while, so I'd love to hear your
Yeah,
question.
no worries, no worries. Um, so I'm the external evaluator for the Best Center NSF grant.
Okay.
So my background isn't technical, but I've got a pretty broad view of um, workforce education overall and STEM in particular, et cetera. So first thing, I want to make sure I understood correctly. You only do building automation systems. Is that correct?
That is correct for right now. We are, because it's automation and because automation is easily transferable,
Yeah.
that is where we really see the opportunity to expand, whether it's automated dredging, uh, wind power, any of these other disciplines that are going to require that actuator, sensor, controls in between. That's where we see the opportunity.
So that's where you are. Okay. Yeah. You're not in AI or you do have a niche there, and I pretty much get what it is. So that's
Mhm.
helpful because I know people out there,
Oh, okay.
who
Yeah.
might be looking for stuff. So my other question is, it looks like it's a lot hands-on, maybe all hands-on. And so where do you locate your opportunities? Are they all just in Manhattan, in New York City? Or, what if I have somebody in California or Texas or something that might be interested in what you do? How would that work?
I mean, right as of right now, we are 5 years old. So, and
Yeah.
you're witnessing the three people, Fran, myself, and Mike. So we are currently basically in New York. We did a beta test in Boston very very early on, but now we're located in New York, and the thing and earlier on I was talking to others about we've had contact from a bunch of different cities that are looking to get this program.
Yeah.
We have developed this curriculum and now we're in the process of, basically franchising it so that we can drop that into New Orleans, Detroit, Washington, wherever, and
Uh-huh.
really work with. The thing that I think I didn't really cover in our curricular overview is one thing that we're working on, and we just recently secured a large grant and support from a big technology company, is so the Girls Club that we mentioned on the Lower East Side, they actually own their own building. And that building's about 40,000 square feet. And so they were a lead building back in like 95, 96. So it has a bunch of heat pumps and a little bit of a BAS, but nothing too monumental. But, over the years, facility managers switch and switch and switch and switch, and somebody has like, those little pieces of paper with the dots along the side that you can tear up. Like they have that as their like how to run this system. So they're kind of not using their building at the utmost capacity, and so we're working with this technology company to come in and basically pimp the building, put in the
Yeah.
highest level automation that we can. Because what we see is using the building as the learning apparatus is how we see going forward in a city. And we're really building this as our strategy, is work with a nonprofit so that we can donate equipment and donate the installation and so forth to improve their building and put building automation in there. Then the data and the tuning that goes on with that building automation, that can be shared with the high schools around the New York area, so that instead of having to figuratively, oh, this is the widget building and we're going to control the lights and we're going to control the HVAC, no, in fact, this is real data that's coming off of the system. The lights went on at 7 o'clock, but they didn't go off at 7 because there's a scheduling error or whatever the case may be. This becomes way more real, and it becomes, as we keep on stressing, we're trying to create the most realistic program so they don't feel like they're kind of working in a vacuum. It feels like, oh no, this is like shovel-ready instruction where it's like, okay, I'm going to go into the building and see what coding changes we made and how that affects. Are there sensors in the hallway that turn on the lights? Maybe the delay is too long. Whatever the case may be, we want the students to really impact their environment so they feel and understand what they're doing. And so that's really the model that we see going forward with the New Orleans, Detroits, and so forth, is partnering with a local organization. And this is one of the big gaps in New York City per their local law 97, is they have all these expensive companies with their multi-100,000 square footage buildings, and they're ratcheting up their BAS and so forth. But in that 35,000 to 50,000 square foot are tons of buildings, huge amount of
Yes.
C's, D's, and so forth in terms of their grades. And so we really see this as the greatest opportunity, is if we can train technicians who can go into those situations and work with those building owners to automate their systems, then you can have huge impact and really, really help those buildings through a very significant pain point. And that then again works in our favor towards the hiring, because you leverage that pain point and say, hey, look, we have talent ready to go. You work with this company, we can hire that talent in and work with you to really improve your building score. So that's the model that we see, is getting those buildings in a local market, kind of having that be the center point. Then we have the rhizomes that pop up around it of various high school and young adult programs, but using the data off of that local building to make it real and to make it something that we can feed into Niagara, we can feed into any of our data projects. And additionally, as this building comes online, it opens opportunity for training around cloud, it opens cybersecurity, it opens a lot of other opportunities that all of a sudden become real, because you're really having to connect to a cloud instance that has the BAS software running on it and is collecting data on a regular basis. So
Right.
it starts to, as I say, makes it more real, makes it something where you have to learn how to set up a cloud instance. And oh, well, the instance dropped. How are we going to reset that? You wouldn't figure that out through theoretically working on building automation, but through the actual trouble and pain in the neck that comes with real hardware in the real world, you're going to learn all these skills that, experience in the workforce is what's currently teaching that. But if we can create that medium and create that environment where they're getting those experiences, we can prepare them better for the workforce.
Yeah, John, thank you for mentioning Living Lab. Best Center is definitely an advocate of that strategy. And we understand it does require buy-in from facilities, right, among other things. Sure.
And that's honestly one of the toughest things. When I was showing earlier the lighting audit of the school, is we were like, oh, with our naivety beaming out of our eyes, we're like, we're going to present this and change the whole building. And then the Department of Ed's like, we've had a 10-year initiative to look into this and blah, 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 blah. And it just turns into a big festival of red tape. Whereas if you're working with a nonprofit that actually owns its own building, they have agency to say, yeah, let's put in automated lighting. Yeah, let's improve by making heat pumps available through the building. So that's really the tricky thing. And working with nonprofits again, that induces industry to come in, because it isn't oh, we're going to do the Google building. No, we're going to do a nonprofit that is locally servicing the community. So, they're impelled through CSR, they're impelled through a lot of other reasons to get the industry to donate that equipment, give those discounts, work with the students to actually install that hardware.
Right. I want to make sure David Lindy gets a chance to ask his
David.
question.
Yeah. Yes.
Go on, David.
Actually, the question was answered, and so I lowered my hand. But I did have another thing. I did follow you guys on LinkedIn. But I was wondering if you have badges for the different qualifications for the students as you go along, some badging.
Yeah, that's been one thing that, we leverage LinkedIn in such a large way, and we're just not a big enough organization to yet approach them and say, hey, we need badging for this. What we actually do is we use those certifications. They have little associated badges in your certification section. Um, I mean, if anybody on here has any any juice with LinkedIn, we would certainly love to involve that, because that's a really big part. And you know, to a high school kid, they're like, LinkedIn, what? What is that? And when you're like, well, it's like Facebook for jobs, and they're like, Facebook? Well, what is that? And you're like, oh my God, I am so square. I'm like, okay, so take a TikTok, but then, no, but I mean, basically, it's kind of like you're using LinkedIn and getting this crew of people who just don't have experience in it and getting them into there. And I really think that type of badging and that type of, you know, gamification of the profile, that's definitely what we want to head towards. And as we expand, you know, our juice with LinkedIn will improve.
And also that LinkedIn, it is important. I mean, it sounds like an ad for LinkedIn, which is not. We don't have any relationship with them. We would love to. But we get a lot of leverage out of it, right? So we do, as we said, we have a lot of professionals visiting the classes, right? To make it real and to get that human connection, or virtually, even when we had to go online over the pandemic, before someone comes in. So we set up the visit. Before they come in, we go with the class to that person's LinkedIn profile, and we do activities. Who is this? What are they interested in? What kind of projects have they done? What kind of person do you think this is? Let's generate some questions for them as they come in, because that's modeling what I do when I have a meeting with a, you know, for a possible partner. I want to know who they are and what's going on. And then we go to the company's website and we look at those profiles, which also ends up corresponding with some of the you know, elements in our curriculum, such as building typologies or different building use cases, right? So you go to the company that's about to visit and you see, oh, look, they worked on a hospital and they worked on a performance center and they worked on a prison. What, you know, what's going to be different between these? And let's generate some questions so we can learn about what control strategies and equipment differences would there be between these types of building typologies. So, and then in the follow-up, of course, you're saying, look, this is about networking. So you got to send a thank you. And when you connect, you should include a little message, not just like hit a connect. And so there's a lot that we get out of that kind of relationship, a lot of professional skills.
Yeah.
Like to invite others to submit their questions as well. You know, we're a small enough group, you just feel comfortable to unmic yourself, or if you want to put it in the chat.
I have another question.
Mm-hmm.
So do you ever connect up through a community college that might have connections with nonprofits? And then your students might also have possibility for dual credit with things that they're doing in the high schools locally. And, you know, the community college could be the center as opposed to the not-for-profit, but you'd still use the not-for-profit. Yeah, anyway, that's my question.
Yeah, we've been exploring that, and if through Best, Larry or others, and you know, just so that we can find out where we are right now in the, you know, New York City area, we just haven't found that direct link to the right building controls program. There are, you know, it would either channel them into like an electrical or a HVAC maintenance. And while those are, you know, those trades are in high demand and would further prepare them
Right.
for the field, so this is getting around to like the recruitment issue. And this is like why for this digital natives, you cannot tell them that that a mechanical starting point is better than a technology or digital starting point. They know, right? They know where the jobs and opportunities are. And so that's what really drives us, you know, like, okay, we got to start with technology. And it also, like, because of their frame, my dog is whining to go out. Because of that frame of their thinking, of that digital, digital native thinking, John referenced this, right? Is like when they're building these, the digital simulations in Niagara, it really like draws them more into a deeper understanding of the system that they're building. So we're not, they've gotten an introduction, but we don't drive into, oh, you got to know the mechanical physical system before we go to building the simulation. We start building the simulation, and then we go into the buildings and start to connect to the reality, because that's the lived experience of these young people. They're on their computers, they're in virtual environments. I mean, they've been building Minecraft since they were 2. And building a simulated, 2-pump, hot water system in a Niagara framework is like, becomes second nature to them.
Yeah.
So there's a program here in Seattle. I'm in Seattle at the South Seattle College. Larry, would it be okay if I talk about that a little bit, or maybe do that offline? What do you think?
Well, I do notice that, I guess we're at about an hour or a little over. I don't mind staying on for a few more minutes. If there are others who need to go and want to get their question in, please do that right now, right? And then we can continue our discussion.
Okay. Yeah, I'll stay on.
Okay.
I did see one question. Are there any requirements on you to be able to offer the Niagara training from CG Keen? And so that's actually that's a relationship we've built by working directly with Tritium, the company behind Niagara. They offer a 4-pay Niagara certification course that they offer throughout the country. We came to them with this opportunity of introducing this to non-traditional population, and they worked with us to take the same Niagara certification course that they offer. And how we do it is we present it to these students, we have them work through the whole course offering, and the deal that we have with Tritium is any student of ours who makes it through the Niagara program and then is hired to a BAS company, Niagara will waive the fee of taking the certification course. This is a huge savings for the company, and so it really motivates the hiring, and also, it's a very, very valuable certification for that student to carry forward into this industry. So that's really the requirements that we have. Is we have this special deal with Tritium around, and we linked up with Tritium quite a while ago, and that that gave us kind of first mover advantage and all these other things. But we also see there are plenty of other integration software products out there. And
the EasyIO and the example, one of the examples you showed, Larry, that was really cool.
Yeah, so I really think it's basically by working with Tritium and by having this curriculum that we worked with them on, it's just taking what they offer, but offering it to an audience who would never come in contact with this. And this is all kind of marketing of the BAS discipline. That's just another aspect where, Tritium definitely has the presence in the marketplace. People who are working in the industry definitely know about it. People outside of the industry have no idea, absolutely no idea.
And it's another example of this very targeted approach. So rather than teaching about these integration platforms and trying to cover, several different ones and compare between the two or generalize, this is how an integration, we selected one that for all the reasons that John gave, but we teach it in a way that does generalize, right? So they do, and then we formalize afterwards in the same way that we teach Python, right? They type in code, and that's how they learn that periods and and capitalization and spacing, all of that is important through experience. And then we do come in and do, we lecture, we do direct instruction after they have engaged with it, and formalize it after they've had some exposure.
One thing, I don't know if you covered this or not, right? How much time do you have with the students?
So it's 180 hours total, and then it's it just depends on the program. So the adult programs we concentrate. We do over 12 weeks, 4 hours per day, usually in the evening, 4 days a week. So it's usually like a Monday through Thursday, 5:30 to 9:30 for 12 weeks. The high school programs are year long. And even there, though, it's some of them are like in a class that's a 50-minute class, and we do it date on their regular every time they meet. We partner with the high school teachers, so we always teach with a teacher as part of their class. And then like the program that Sophia and Fran were in, that they are specifically set up for internships. So that's, twice a week for 3 hours. So, but it all fits into that 180 hours. We just apportion it differently.
Mm-hmm. Now, you all are able to accomplish a tremendous amount. I mean, I had not realized how integral the certifications were to the entire program. Right? So, I mean, it's wonderful. They leave with something very, very tangible in their hands.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just as an accomplishment process
Right.
as well, it just gives them a ladder up. And
Yeah.
Niagara is definitely the most complex, but it just kind of, their comfort and confidence builds with each kind of ascent. So yeah.
Well, I have to say, now go ahead.
Set them up for continuous learning, right? So it's another example where how we help them pass the EPA 608 is really by teaching how to approach a test. And then we're applying those, and we're again, that's where our direct instruction comes in, is around the material that's on the test, but also on test taking strategies, studying strategies, and so that they can take that forward, because they're going to need other certifications. There's so many different platforms out there, different control platforms, and IT certifications, cybersecurity, and it's playing out. We have graduates who've been in the industry now. Actually, one has been in the industry for 3 years. So we have some track record, and they are continuously getting extra certifications. It's a must do, and it's paid for by the companies, and they're given time to do it during their regular working hours. So it's just a great ladder up.
Yeah, we hope that someday the Stacks and Joules graduates will take the high performance building operations professional certification that Best Center is offering. Ted's working on that, as we speak, right? Helping us to develop that exam.
Yeah, I think there's just a real opportunity for us to learn from you all about this link, right? How do we create that link, especially for our high school students, but also for our adults who, actually every company that we've placed into full employment from our adults, they offer education reimbursement benefits. So there's just like a lot, and that's where we are, is like, we're not saying just an alternative to a degree program. It's clear that earning a degree, right, the process, the level of learning, advances people through the degree. I'm sincere when I say to this group that community colleges are the backbone of opportunity in this nation. It's like the thing that's holding on to that American dream of work hard and advance. And so creating, getting your help in better creating that step from when they leave our high school programs into something that's going to be a very a continuation, is we really look forward to that.
Sure. Yeah, well, yeah, that's definitely going to be an ongoing conversation. I would like to point out that Frank Mruck there, he is with the Smart Building Center at Roxbury Community College in Boston.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So if you're willing to deal with a rival city, hey,
that's where we started. I don't know if we've spoken with you, Frank. Maybe back, yeah, we started right there. We actually worked with Madison Park High School as one of our first sort of like test sites where we kind of beta tested some of the curriculum. And then we worked with Dearborn High School. So, hey, the hat. Yeah, you got to earn it. You got to earn it. And I would love to let you. We send it to our partners as they engage with us, and our graduates get it at graduation. So cool. Definitely would love to share, but it's an earned badge.
Well, if there aren't any other questions, we can circle back to the discussion that Terrell wanted to have. I want to thank everybody for attending. Sophia has already left the house, but, big kudos to her and to Fran and for all the graduates, both of the, the workforce training as well as the high school cohorts. And I just want to wish all the dads out there happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day, yeah.
And to Frank Mruck, hey, go Warriors. Hey, go
Warriors. He's throwing it down at the last minute. No, he's going to hit end.
Yeah, no, and done.
He's still on mute.
And
I couldn't get a reaction.
I know your type, Larry. You're talking to two Boston boys. We grew up.
Exactly. We grew up right outside.
With you. We're not going to let this stand.
Yeah.
Right. Nice. Yeah. We'll see you tonight.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah.
All right. Excellent. So yeah, would love to have anybody who can just reach out and get in touch. And we're really just looking for partners who can help us in figuring out that next step of the connection of the pathway to community college and how we can work with that. And then also, as we said, as we work towards franchising it and moving it to other cities, just working with local groups and, having some on the ground intelligence is really, really helpful to us. So yeah, anybody who would be interested and willing to partner, please let us know.
I'm thinking that maybe what I can do is refer, there's a grant also that I'm evaluating at South Seattle College in the area of building science.
Oh, okay.
And so a program in building science. They have both a BAS and a 2-year degree, a bachelor's degree and an associate's degree offered at the college. But maybe the thing to do, Larry, this is going to get posted on the BEST website. Is that correct, this webinar?
Right, yeah, like all our
I think maybe what I should do is refer them to the webinar and have them get as far as I have, and then they'll know whether there's something here or not. So
okay, yeah,
there could be a good connection there, but I could be wrong. So
okay. No promises.
Let's go.
All right.
Well, thank you all for your close attention, for taking the time on today to hear us out, and for your questions and comments to help us think this through.
Right.
Well, thank you all. Right. Yeah, Stacks and Joules, you've done a tremendous job. Keep up the great work.
Thank you. That means a lot, Larry.
Thank you so much
for your expertise.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Thank you again.
Take care, everyone.